Now, a few years ago, I built TANIWHA over here, a mono-blue land destruction deck, and today we're making several new changes, and I'm going to explain why. So, for you, how you sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for dropping by and your ongoing support. My name is Patrick, host of the EDH Brutality YouTube page, which I upload Magic the Gathering content every Wednesday and Sunday. You're watching my newest deck changelog, in which I take old decks previously featured on the channel, in which I still play, and discuss the changes I have made to ultimately make them better. Quick disclaimer for you all, timestamps as always will be provided down in the description below. And of course, if you're interested in the deck as a whole, feel free to take a look at the other changelogs or perhaps even the original deck tech with a Moxfield link, all provided down in the description below. But before we jump right into today's changes, a quick and special thanks to patrons like you for making videos like this possible. Now just bear with me all, however, because I am a bit sick right now, so if my voice crack or just sound a little bit different, that is why. Without further ado, let's just jump right in. Now, it's no secret that TANIWHA, although a great body on board, has a rather horrendous ability. Not to mention the playstyle of a deck such as this is all about destroying lands, meaning we draw quite a bit of hate. For that reason, we used to have Mirror Universe in the deck in hopes to hang in by a thread by swapping our life totals with a select player. However, throughout my time playing TANIWHA, I realized once we are ready to be hated out of the game, Mirror Universe is either not in our hand, or we die before our upkeep where it'll trigger, making it a rather useless card. So I did some research and decided to double down on TANIWHA's jank effects and how we could leverage it even more, which led me to discover the card known as Exchange of Words, which is a 1 generic and 2 blue mana enchantment spell reading. When Exchange of Words enters the battlefield, choose 2 target creatures. For as long as Exchange of Words remains on the battlefield, exchange the text boxes of those creatures, meaning we can dump TANIWHA's downside onto another player entirely. And the best part yet is TANIWHA doesn't need to remain on board for this effect to continue. Not only does this hose a specific opponent, but it opens up further lines of play if we'd like our TANIWHA to have any different keyword or ability from a select creature on board. Overall, this is quite the useful enchantment as well, because we don't even need to target our commander. In fact, we can just use it to mess around with our opponent's creatures, especially if one of them is a combo piece. And this is going to be a rather common theme throughout these swaps in today's video, in which we just axe cards that are just straight up useless, even though they look good on paper, like Frozen Aether, of course, which undoubtedly is a great stacks piece, but that's not the point of this deck, is it? No, the point of TANIWHA is Voltron and land destruction, so why would it matter if our opponent's permanents enter tapped? Sure, it could potentially allow us for faster plays when comparison to our opponents, but I've noticed it just hates us out of the table that much sooner, so I decided to trash it for a Counting Gem, a 4 generic artifact spell reading. When Counting Gem enters the battlefield, return 2 lands you control to their owner's hand. Tap to add 2 mana of any 1 color to your mana pool. Which of course, in a deck where you only have your lands 50% of the time, not only serves as an additional mana rock, but allows us to bounce lands to later replay them for the turns in which we will miss a land drop. And it should be stated, if we do play this when our lands are phased out, then we'll no longer have to bounce any lands, because you can't bounce what's no longer there. To eliminate more hatred, we did also sack our Dreamtides, which was a rather emotional cut for me. But once again, we're not trying to tap our opponent's creatures, so this doesn't matter too much. Mithril Coat is the perfect card to fit in this slot, as it serves as another protection piece for our commander, which is a rather important part of our game plan. It is difficult to remove, and it also is a mana sink with the flash keyword ability, which we can spend with our lands in response to them phasing out. Our last hateful piece to see the Axe happened to be a Jin-Gitaxias Core Augur, which if hits the field is rather devastating. But you know what's more devastating is spending 10 mana for it to either get countered or removed before our opponents either discard all of their hands or we draw a fresh set of 7 cards. And with such a high mana investment, found as a dead card I was unhappy drawing into unless it was late game, especially when you consider the fact that the real reason I had this within the brew was for its card draw. So it was a no-brainer to swap this out with a Consecrated Sphinx, which not only is much cheaper mana-wise, but is a significantly less threatening creature. Sure, is it still dangerous? Absolutely. But it's one of those permanents that should be answered and removed and not a must. Sphinx, of course, also does pair nicely with our several wheels within the deck, or force card draw in which we can put onto another player to draw even more cards, making it much more synergistic than the core augur was. I also booted our Merchant Scroll, as there is no primary targets for me to search with it, and added in a memory jar for further card draw as well as support for the previously mentioned Consecrated Sphinx. And yes, drawing 7 is good enough to incorporate this card as a standalone, but if we are blessed enough to have the Sphinx as well as memory jar on board, we'll be able to draw a whopping 49 cards. While on the topic of card draw, Brain Geyser once again was way too slow. This also led to weird tempo plays, which were never timed correctly unless you had a line of anticipation on board. So why not add one of the strongest card draw effects in the game, which happens to be the One Ring, which gets quite bonkers within this brew, because we have several untap effects coming your way real soon. But before we discuss those, other than the card draw with this card, it does give us protection from everything. And since the deck is equipped with a capsize, you could probably see where I'm going with this. You could play the One Ring to gain protection from everything, meaning you can't get damaged until your next turn, and we balance it with the capsize with buyback in mind. This allows us to return our capsize back to hand, in which we can do it again, as well as our One Ring, in which we can play once again to get protection from everything, and ultimately bounce it again. And these two cards also interact wonderfully in resetting the One Ring's burden counters in the event we are tapping and untapping it too many times that will drain us out of the game. And to be quite frank with you, it was quite nice to find another reason to have capsize in the deck other than bouncing our opponent's lands or threatening creatures. And seeing this changed my entire line of thinking, so I wanted to see what other cards I can include, not only to make the deck stronger with their inclusion, but perhaps even doubling down on previous effects. So I got rid of the likes of Thought Vessel for a Sonic Screwdriver, which is just 1 more mana but has the advantage of generating colored mana, as well as giving our commander unblockable, supporting our Voltron package, scrying the top of our deck to filter potential cards, and even untapping other artifacts, such as the One Ring. And this isn't the only card that can be untapped and abused, because for those that don't know, the deck is already equipped with a Mana Vault, Basalt Monolith, and Grim Monolith, meaning we can abuse them much easier with repeated untaps at a discounted cost. On this note, we also threw in a Manifold Key for redundancy, whether that's through untapping or unblockable with TANIWHA in place of a Relearn, which unsurprisingly was rather useless in practice. Relearn was one of those cards I had from the very beginning, and since most of the instants within the brew now are single-use payoffs, there's no need to get them back. On the same note, Snapcaster Mage, no longer useful within the brew, so I decided to put a Poo-Poo UFO to help further ramp out lands within our hand. This spell also goes hand in hand, quickly eliminating the downside of cards such as Counting Gem, Overburden, or even Sunder, allowing us to rebuild much faster than anticipated. For added redundancy on this, our next include was a Walking Atlas, which does the exact same thing, just 2 generic mana. This card did replace a Mystic Remora, which is a great card draw effect, but with the added card draw within this video alone, I no longer deemed it necessary. And this is where the brew gets much more fun with our changes, because I got rid of another slow rock in the likes of Cold Steel Hearts for a Retreat to Coral Helm, which has a landfall ability that either lets us scry 1 or tap or untap another target creature, which if you are a seasoned player already know that this interacts directly with our Walking Atlas and Poo Poo UFO to play out our entire hand of lands. This means we can now play cards such as Sunder even when our lands are in play, or even carelessly spend all of our mana into those massive X spells in the hopes we're going to draw into more lands to get them into play untapped. If you are smart enough, you could change the order in which this is done, draw into a bunch of lands, put them onto the battlefield untapped, cast Sunder, and replay all your lands to cast a shit ton of spells. In the last changelog, we did get rid of Shimmer, which means we no longer have the need for an Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. I swapped this out with another land, being Talongate's Madara, which has an ability stating, when Talongate's Madara enters the battlefield, up to one target creature faces out. Tap to add 1 generic mana, pay 1 generic and tap to add 1 mana of any color, or pay 4 at instant speed to put Talongate's Madara from your hand onto the battlefield. Which are all great effects because not only does it help filter our mana, it allows us to potentially ramp out faster than Curve, as well as phase out our TANIWHA when in play. This means if timed correctly, we'll have our commander for 2 turns in a row. And lastly, our final changes are all essentially the same swaps, because I didn't find them quite useful. Cephalid Coliseum, Hall of the Bandit Lord, Mystic Sanctuary, Sapphire Medallion, and Sky Diamond all got the axe. For just what, you may ask? Well, we added 5 basic islands. The mana rocks and cost reduction here were nice, but I found I was a little short on lands, so having 2 extra within the brew definitely made for some more consistent play. As far as my 3 non-basic lands, although they are great for utility, don't necessarily work well with cards such as High Tide, and are completely useless once I get a back to basics on board, making them an easy swap to finish off the video. So do you agree with my picks? Please let me know down in the comment section below. I know this deck has evolved quite a lot since its initial inception several years ago, but for those that have been following me the entire time, I hope you can understand on why these changes are necessary. If you made it this far in the video, of course, we do plan on having future deck techs coming right up, but with longer videos such as those, just give me a little bit of time. But until then, that's going to do it for today's episode. So if you want to stay tuned for future videos here on the channel, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit the bell down in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. And as always, my name is Patrick, host of EDH Brutality. I thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, guys. Oh, my throat is so sore. I need some water. I need some sleep. I need some more magic cards. And I need this video to do well. And same with these. Go like these videos. I'll see you in the next one. I'm out.